Welcome. This video reviews configuration of analog devices for OpenScape Cloud. In the demonstration, we will configure subscriber records for two analog devices. The first record will be used for a fax machine using a public number. The second record is for an analog phone using a private number. The process, from a circuit administration portal perspective, is the same across all supported analog applications. The question arises as to why we need to support analog applications in a SIP environment. The answer is legacy applications. The most common legacy applications are fax machines and analog telephones deployed in areas customers deem not suitable for a SIP device. The focus of this tutorial is requirements from the Circuit Administration Portal to add an analog device. We will briefly overview pertinent subscriber fields for the Mediatrix ATA, Analog Terminal Adapter. The tutorial does not provide training for initial installation and configuration of Mediatrix ATAs. If you are Mediatrix trained, please search Circuit, Help, Mediatrix for configuration hints. We will not review the Mediatrix help step by step in this tutorial, but it is there for your review. Information contained within help, including the Mediatrix configuration process, is extremely useful when configuring or troubleshooting the Mediatrix ATA. Please note fax machine configuration for Mediatrix may involve additional configuration within your fax machine or Mediatrix ATA to support appropriate fax functionality. These configuration areas are outside of the scope of this training. You should also make sure your ITSP provides T.38 fax support. Let's discuss how we support analog applications in an OpenScape Cloud SIP environment. OpenScape Cloud exists in a SIP environment. Several Mediatrix ATA analog terminal adapter models are supported by OpenScape Cloud, as detailed in Circuit Help. The Mediatrix ATA is installed at the establishment location requiring analog devices. The Mediatrix ATAs provide SIP to analog conversion, the necessary dial tone, battery current, and ring voltage for the analog device, and FXS, foreign exchange station ports, using an RJ11 cable connection to the analog device. Let's click on my username, Cliff Bookbinder, and access administration. Unify Enterprise V are the OpenScape Cloud licenses we will use for this demonstration, but any subscription type will fit. We have 126 of 200 licenses available. 74 are used. You will pick the license that is appropriate for your environment. Let's add the subscriber record for our fax machine. We click on Users and invite single user. A screen arises that asks for first name, last name, and email address. I input education for first name and fax for last name. We then assign an email address. We pick the appropriate license for our integration. A check shows what's chosen. When done, we click Add. Education fax is now added and ready for further configuration. The screen switches to display the user created in the Circuit Administration Portal. An email is sent to the user, inviting them to establish a password for logon to Circuit. Notice that the font is gray. This means that the subscriber has not yet logged in to Circuit and established a password. Now, we will click Assign Number to assign a telephone number and other cloud telephony parameters for the subscriber. Notice that the invitation is pending. An automated email is sent to the email address provided at subscriber creation. If you elect to click on the link provided in the email, you are prompted to establish a password for joining the circuit domain. The invitation pending will then change to display the last login day or date. If the subscriber is logged on to circuit, you will see a white check mark within a green circle under the name, and it will say online instead of offline. We see the license taken and that the user is not an administrator. We assign the phone number, which in our case is a DID number on the OpenScape cloud system. Let's click OK to accept our entry. The fax machine requires international privilege for call permissions. We will leave caller ID blank, which means that the public number will be used for display purposes. If we hover over the information box, additional detail is provided about caller ID. For desk phone, we choose third-party phone and save. There now are additional fields on the bottom of our subscriber edition screen, which appeared after we clicked Save. The SIP server address and the appropriate port is configured within the Mediatrix ATA during initial installation and configuration. OpenScape Cloud utilizes TLS, Transmission Layer Security, for the transport protocol. If we hover over the information box, we see that TLS 1.2 support is required. The Mediatrix ATA is configured for that at time of installation. Let's note the realm, user ID, and the unique password. We will use these entries to configure the fax machine in Mediatrix. Notice that the user ID is equal to the phone number, since we are using a public number. OpenScape Cloud uses customer-provided certificates for security. This certificate may be downloaded by clicking on it and importing it into the Mediatrix server. This is typically done at time of initial Mediatrix installation and configuration. Importing certificates is found in Mediatrix Web-Based Management under Management, Certificates. It displays that the certificate is successfully imported. Once the certificate is added for the Mediatrix ATA, no additional action by the Mediatrix administrator is required as we add devices via Circuit Administration Portal for this Mediatrix ATA. Please note that your Mediatrix screen may look different dependent on software load and Mediatrix model utilized. It is now time for the Mediatrix administrator to configure the FXS port for the subscriber. I will briefly review this so a trained Mediatrix administrator will be comfortable with required circuit subscriber record entries. We access Mediatrix Web-Based Management, SIP, Registrations, and for port 1, we input the circuit user ID 4989-2488-31798 for username and friendly name. Friendly name may be used as a descriptive mechanism to present an actual name as a caller ID instead of a number. That name is usually provisioned in the SIP server, and the server may either relay the value that it receives by the endpoint, Mediatrix, or it may reject it and add its own. OpenScape Cloud configuration typically sends first name and last name as defined for the subscriber in the Circuit Administration Portal as the display. Please note friendly name has an impact on Mediatrix outgoing SIP messages that can be seen in traces. Follow the best practices as determined in your Mediatrix training to populate the friendly name field appropriately for your site. We enable Register. In my environment, the remainder of the fields can default. Click Apply to save the changes. Now, click on Authentication and the Edit icon for Priority 1. Configure the following entries. Criteria equal endpoint. Endpoint equal port 01. Realm equal Unify, which is the realm name provided in the circuit subscriber record. Username equal 4989-2488-31798, which is the user ID provided in the circuit subscriber record. Password equal the unique password provided by the circuit subscriber record. When done, apply and refresh registration. Apply and refresh has all enabled endpoints on the Mediatric ATA unregister themselves from the previous registrar and send a new registration. However, it does not disrupt calls that are in progress. Go back to SIP registration and view the registration status to validate successful registration with Mediatric. A browser refresh may be required to view the updated results. We should see status equal to registered if all is correctly configured. To save a few minutes, I added the subscriber record for our analog phone and circuit, since the process is the same as our analog fax. This allows us to explore and highlight items of interest. We made the following entries. The username is loadingdoc. Our email is ldoc@server.com. We have not responded to our invitation to log on to circuit, so the invitation is pending. Our license is Unify Enterprise V. We do not have administrative rights. Phone number equal 123-333-33. A private number not directly reachable from the PSTN. Call permissions equal national. Caller ID equal blank. Desk phone equal third-party phone. Once we click Save, the information below appears. The SIP server address, SIP server port, and transport protocol are provided. They are often entered into the Mediatric ATA at time of initial installation. Realm is provided for authentication. It is critical to note that the circuit desk phone settings user ID does not equal the circuit cloud telephony phone number. You must use the highlighted circuit user ID when configuring the Mediatric ATA port for the endpoint registration, username, and username for authentication. We use the circuit password as the password within Mediatric for authentication. Finally, we have our certificate, which is typically imported to the Mediatric ATA at installation. Let's take a look at the configured record in Mediatric to reinforce these points. The configuration process within the Mediatric ATA will look familiar to our fax machine example. In SIP, registrations, for port 2, we input the circuit cloud telephony user ID, not the phone number, for username. This is because we used a private number in the circuit subscriber record. I also elected to use the same number for friendly name. We enabled register. In my environment, the remainder of the fields can default. Apply is clicked to save the changes. It is now time to access SIP, Authentication, Priority 2, and click on the pencil icon to view the configuration established earlier to save time. Criteria equal endpoint. Endpoint equal port 02. Validate realm equal enable, which was the default. Realm equal Unify, as provided in the circuit subscriber record. Username equal the circuit cloud telephony user ID, not the phone number. Password equal the unique password provided in the circuit subscriber record. We applied and refreshed registration to save our work. If we look at SIP registrations, The status equal registered for the port. Let's take a look at our devices to validate function and to demonstrate what appears on the display when a call is made. I will call our fax machine from the OpenScape desk phone IP55G speaker. We hear the fax machine ring, and will soon hear the fax tone. On the display, we see first name, last name, and extension number generated by our circuit entries. Let's call our analog phone from our OpenScape desk phone 55G. On the display, we see first name, last name, and extension number. Again, the display is generated by our circuit entries. Let's search for our loading dock subscriber record. I can match on any of the characters in the first or last name. And the good news is searches are not case sensitive. I will click on the match to access the record. Let's change the display last name to Dock 1. To complete the change, press the arrow back button on the upper left of the screen. Let's get back into the loading Dock 1 record by clicking on it. I can change cloud telephony settings by clicking on them. Be cautious with changing the phone number. Changing the phone number in Circuit generates a new user ID and password in the desk phone settings. The changes also need to be made to the corresponding fields of the Mediatric ATA gateway. Clicking Unassign generates a pop-up window. If you click Yes, the telephone number will be deleted and freed up for future use in Circuit. It will also remove all of the desk phone settings. This activity does not change the Mediatric ATA record, so it is important to make the corresponding changes in Mediatric as well. Finally, on the bottom of our page, we see Suspend User. Suspend User blocks access to the Circuit account and the ability to make or receive calls. It is gray right now because we have not logged into Circuit to set a password for the account to associate with the email. Delete User deletes the entire subscriber record within Circuit and makes the telephone number available for assignment to another subscriber. Delete User does not impact the Mediatric record, so again, you would need to log into Mediatric to make appropriate changes. This concludes our OpenScape Cloud analog device configuration video. Thank you for watching.